This podcast has been brought to you by SeekersGuidance, the global Islamic seminary. Help us spread the light of prophetic guidance to millions around the world by becoming a monthly supporter. Make a small donation at SeekersGuidance.org/donate. For as little as $10 a month, you can help people find life-changing guidance.
How do I attain a sound and pure heart? How do I attain a sound and pure heart? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. On the day that neither wealth nor children will avail a person except the one who presented to Allah a sound heart. A sound heart, brothers and sisters, is the most important thing that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in one hadith, that is, أَلَا فِي الْجَسَدِ مُضْغَةٌ. Verily there is in the body a piece of flesh, or a morsel, a piece of flesh. If it is sound, the whole body is sound. If it is corrupt, the whole body is corrupt. Certainly this is the heart. The heart is the central headquarters of all of your limbs. All haram that manifest on your tongue, on your eyes, on your hands, everywhere in your body, only happens because of a corruption in the heart. One could argue, and Muhammad Mawlud, rahimahullah ta'ala, great West African scholar, highlights that really all this comes to thoughts, right? Every single sin that occurs in the world occurs from a thought that came in the mind of someone, right? And that is why on the one level you want to protect your heart, that is true, and learn what it needs and how to nurture the heart and how to protect the heart, etc. And part of that also is to become more critical of your own self and where your thoughts are coming from, right? And that this is why it's a very big topic. But what we can highlight that's very important is, and practical advice is, number one, learn the diseases of the heart. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, for example, said about envy or hasad, that hasad eats up your good deeds like fire consumes wood, right? So even if you are righteous, you're doing all these good deeds, but you have hasad, you have a jealous envy towards someone, then it is eating up and burning your good deeds and you're even unaware of it. If you have arrogance in your heart, then a'udhu billah, it is mentioned that Jannah or paradise is, no one enters Jannah who has an atom's weight of arrogance in their heart, a'udhu billah. If you are showing off in your good deeds, this becomes a source of you being punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not rewarded. فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ وَيَمْنَعُونَ to the end. So وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَعُونَ. So Allah Ta'ala here says, woe to those who are heedless of their prayers, those who want to be seen when they pray. So outwardly we're doing an action of ibadah, which is prayer, which is one of the best things you can do. But because of the diseases of the heart and other factors that corrupted this wonderful good deed, it becomes a cause of the very punishment of the person, a'udhu billah. So you can see that the heart is very important. So the first thing to do practically is learn the diseases of the heart, right? How do you do that? You have to take a class. You have to attend a class and be with a good teacher that can teach you all the diseases of the heart. Number two, you learn what are the cures of those diseases. So for example, for hasad, one of the cures is to recognize that Allah gave that person that reward. And by you being envious, you're really objecting to the divine favor that He gave to someone. And Allah's Al-Hakim, He's the all-wise. He knows why someone should have that blessing and that one should not be envious of it, for example. And then there's other practical things like making dua for that person, realizing that even if you have a jealousy, but if given the opportunity, you wouldn't take that blessing from that person, then you're not in that state of being in a state of haram with regards to hasad, right? Because if someone has a gift, you're jealous, but you would never want them to lose it, you would never take that away from them, then that is not hasad. Just learning that definition, and then practical ways like making dua for them, giving them a gift or something like that would help. And that very effort will help your heart become healthier. Or in showing off, realizing in Aqidah that no one benefits or harms other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in reality. So the only nafi' wal dar is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? The only one who can benefit you is Allah. The only one that matters is Allah. The only thing that will be brought on the Day of Judgment after sifting all your other good deeds are those things that were done purely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is pure and only accepts pure. All other things will be rejected, right? So all of that should also get our hearts to be in a state of tremble and our limbs to be very, in a state of fear, because if we're not sincere in what we do, then we're wasting our time. And sincerity is the most important thing. The ulama mentioned a moment of sincerity can save you in the next world. So, but to also leave you with practical advice from Imam Muhammad Mawlud, who calls this the comprehensive treatment of the heart. And he says is in the following, is number one, denying the nafs, the self of its desires. And we mentioned that earlier with regard to a question, right? Number two, enjoining hunger. Now in the classical stuff, when you hear hunger, you're like, what is this weird Sufi stuff? Okay, you are yourself a product of this teaching right here. Because while you're fasting in the month of Ramadan and you're hungry and you're going through all that you're going through, how are you being elevated? Through that hunger, through the limbs being denied all that it wants, right? And by hunger, the ulama mentioned that shaitan basically gets in a state where you strangle and limit his efforts and his effect upon you by limiting your food intake. So fasting, this is why fasting helps a lot. Eating too much makes you sleep too much and is lazy too much, like the bulk of us. May Allah forgive us all. Ameen. Okay? So, enjoining hunger. One of the great Indian scholars, rahimahullah, once said that it's not always just about what you eat, but being able to control that eating, that you tell yourself what it needs to eat and when it stops, to have that control over your appetite. But to lower and enjoying hunger. Staying up in the night vigil. And subhanAllah, this is why Ramadan is so special. We're witnessing it right before us. Staying up in the night, the intimate last third of the night, when du'as are answered, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, He's making a call that who is asking for something that I may grant him, who's asking for forgiveness that I may forgive him, who has a need, who has this, who has that. And most people are sleeping, like probably the bulk of us throughout the year. And in Ramadan, we're like, we're present. Ya Allah, me, I have a need, I have this, I have that. But then we find it difficult throughout the rest of the year. But that's good for the heart, because the stillness of the night and reflection, which leads us now to the fifth thing, which is reflection. Now, reflection is a big topic. Shaykh Faraz had mentioned that in another session sometime back on these very answers, but reflection is important. And perhaps we can expand on that another time, but reflecting for a moment about your state and what's happening in your life can alter your entire existence, right? Moments of reflection that ends up transforming your life is more important than anything else. So reflecting. And then last is to keep good company of people. Man jalasa janasa, whoever keeps company with the people becomes like them and conforms to their way. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullah wa kunu ma'as sadiqin. O you who believe, have taqwa of Allah and be with the sadiqeen, the people of truth. Wasbir nafsaka ma'al ladina. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions even to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to keep the company of those who call upon their Lord by night and by day, and do not let the glitter of this world basically delude them, etc. So this is all part of what we can do, and as long as we're making, again, an effort, learning, striving, and doing mujahada against ourselves, then inshallah we'll arrive bidnillah at a good place.
Thank you for listening. This podcast was brought to you by Seekers Guidance, the Global Islamic Seminary. Visit SeekersGuidance.org to access reliable Islamic knowledge taught by qualified teachers. We offer a wide range of courses, podcasts, articles, and a world-class answer service. Support us in spreading free, reliable Islamic knowledge to millions around the world by becoming a monthly supporter. Visit SeekersGuidance.org/donate. and make a small monthly commitment today. Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Whoever guides someone to goodness will have a similar reward." So don't forget to share this podcast and spread prophetic guidance.